Hemp is back and in a big new way. So then why was hemp illegal in the first place? Well, I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to tell you why William Randolph Hearst was a big part of that. All on today's News Roach. Hi, and welcome to this episode of the News Roach, where I sift through the ashtrays of weed stories, find the best one, and I'm handing them over to you. As always, if you like this little episode and like to see more, please subscribe below, like and or comment on this episode, and please feel free to share it. But for now, let's talk hemp. Hemp has gotten a bad rap in this country, but that's not by accident by any means. Even though humans have cultivated hemp all around the world for about 8,000 years now, hemp has had an on and off relationship with this country ever since it was first mentioned in 1632 as an agricultural crop. It's widely known that Thomas Jefferson himself used hemp paper to write a draft of the Declaration of Independence on. Several of our founding fathers were hemp farmers themselves. And in some states, it was actually the law that you have to grow hemp as a crop. Hemp has many uses, such as manufacturing rope, shoes, clothing, and other everyday items. Henry Ford even built a hemp car, for God's sake. In 1938, Popular Mechanics produced a list of 28,000 products that could be made from hemp. So what the hell happened? Well, in the beginning of the century, hemp was just not a plant in the ground. It had so many uses, though, that it threatened newer industries. And one of those was Hearst, the newspaper mogul, because Hearst he owned one of the largest newspaper companies in the country. And he also had acres on acres upon acres of timber using for paper production. Hemp was a much better resource for paper. So to Hearst, this was a threat. So Hearst decided to start publishing fake stories in his newspaper about how blacks and Mexicans got high on what he derogatory called marijuana, and to use this to rape and kill white women. This inspired the anti-cannabis movie Reefer's Madness, which portrayed cannabis users as suicidal, murderous, raping, and addictive lunatics. You know the feeling. There is now a movement within the cannabis industry to move away from that derogatory term marijuana and use words like cannabis instead. Another reason was industrial giants like DuPont, who at the time was producing a new synthetic material fiber called nylon, which could have easily been replaced by hemp. So what the hell is hemp then? Well, hemp comes from the same plant as your cannabis sativa, but they have a few different characteristics and appearances. The cannabis looks just like your art teacher's weed plants in his office, while the hemp plant is taller, much taller, and contains no bud. And this is important because you cannot get high from smoking hemp. Hemp contains such a low dosage of THC, the psychoactive ingredients. THC stands for, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. You try it. And it's impossible to get high from smoking hemp. All you will do is get a gigantic headache. So kids, stay away from smoking hemp. It's a bad scene. Anyways, hemp is now vilified in the US, and this led to the Marijuana Act of 1937, in which the US started heavily taxing hemp production. Now add the crony Harry Anslinger, that guy, the commissioner of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, the predecessors to the failed DEA. This guy went full on you-know-what on hemp, and even though it wasn't made illegal, it was so heavily taxed that any incentive to grow the crop was killed. Now, hemp came back briefly to aid in the Second World War effort. The government lifted the Tax Act in 1943. At the time, just one single Navy ship required 34,000 feet of hemp rope. Unfortunately, as soon as the war was over, the Tax Act was imposed again, and hemp was once again on the ropes. And then not much happened. on our hemp front until our government came up with their new genius plan, the Controlled Substance Act of 1971. The plan, the brainchild of Nixon, go figure, now classified drugs in 5 categories or schedules, ranging from Schedule 1, the worst stuff ever, down to Schedule 5, Robitussin. Guess where cannabis ended up? You guessed it. Cannabis became a Schedule 1 drug right there with heroin and LSD. This is from the DA's website. Schedule 1 drugs, substance, or chemicals are defined as drugs with no current accepted medical use and highly potential for abuse. That's from today. And for instance, a Schedule 2 drug is fentanyl, cocaine, and meth. The DA is all about to protect their own jobs on the backs of suffering medical patients. They even went after CBD oil and classified it as a Schedule 1 drug. Now, before you panic and start flushing down your CBD oils, please remember that CBD can still be bought all across this nation. The DEA has not enforced this madness. Also, the DEA is there to enforce the law, not writing it. What kind of society would that be where law enforcement could write their own laws to uphold and enforce? Not in this country, please. That's for sure. So even though the DA has a scheduled CBD as a Schedule 1 drug with no current acceptable medical use and to have a high potential for abuse, they can't enforce that law themselves. The government makes the drug laws. The DEA enforce them. That's it. So what happened the other day to make hemp legal again? Well, in 2014, Obama signed the Farm Bill, which allowed farmers to once again grow hemp as part of a research project. When hemp was first grown in the US, Kentucky was one of the biggest producers of hemp, so there should be no surprise, but there is, that opportunists like Mitch McConnell, who represents Kentucky, will be championing this cause. Kentucky has seen a big drop in tobacco farming, and the hopes is to have farmers replace tobacco with hemp. Even the dairy farmers around the country has been hit hard, so hard that many have resorted to suicide. So it's literally hope in hemp. Well, I want to thank you so much for watching this episode of the News Roach. As I said before, if you want to subscribe, please do so below. Thank you again for watching, and please do remember that there is THC in healthcare.